Welcome and good afternoon. I'm Janelle Wicks with the Friends of Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the June installment of our Celebrating Malheur speaker series. Every month for this year, 2024, the Friends is celebrating our 25th anniversary by highlighting different aspects of Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, getting different perspectives and different experiences from refuge staff, partners, and stakeholders that are bringing new and interesting topics to our constituents, our friends. Glad that you're able to join us and watch this program this afternoon. It is a hybrid program. So not only is it accessible over Zoom, but it is also live in person here at the Harney County Opportunity Teams Chamber Community Room here in downtown Burns at 484 Broadway. And so for the rest of this year, we'll continue these programs and hope to have you continue to join us. Just a little bit of context. The Friends of Malheur National Wildlife Refuge is a nonprofit partner to the refuge. Our mission is to promote the conservation and appreciation of Malheur National Wildlife Refuge's cultural and natural resources. We do that through outreach, advocacy, and on-the-ground stewardship. So there's always an opportunity to connect with our community here in Harney County and the larger birding and outdoor enthusiast community, in addition to advocating for the resources of the refuge and getting out here and getting your hands and feet dirty, whether it's pulling barbed wire or planting native plants to support pollinator gardens. There's always work to be done to support the refuge. And we're glad that we have over 1,000 annual dues paying members that help to support this work, in addition to over 1,400 donors who give annually with monetary and in-kind donations. So our organization is proud to be a primary partner to the refuge and to support the refuge's needs how and whenever we can. And for us, the advocacy component, part of that is sharing information with all of you. And the speaker series is a big part of that this year. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the reins over to Carey Goss. Carey has been working for the refuge for a good number of years. I'll let her tell her story a little bit herself. But I just want to share with you all that she's an amazing partner to work with. I'm thrilled that we work on many things together, but the topic that she's bringing you this afternoon is one of the areas we work on the most. And so I'm glad that she's able to share all of that with you. A reminder, please leave your microphones muted, and we will moderate questions out of the chat box at the end of the program. So with that, Carey, it's yours.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, Janelle. I just wanted to give Janelle a big thank you for all the work she has done at Malheur. And I also want to give you all a big thank you too for your support and helping us achieve everything we could achieve on the refuge, because a lot of the projects we do probably couldn't be successful if it wasn't for the Friends group. And with that, when I'm going through this slideshow or this presentation, there's going to be some areas where I'm probably going to maybe emphasize where, you know, I could be looking at you for help. And because for me, environmental education is extremely important, and throughout everywhere, but especially at Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. So let me just start by introducing myself. My name is Carey Goss. I do work at Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. My position currently is I'm the Wildlife Refuge Specialist. I manage pretty much the public use program. So that'd be visitor services. So I do a lot of education, outreach, and working with volunteers and partnerships. I do want to inform everyone that I did get a temporary promotion. So starting on the 16th of June, I will be now detailing as the deputy project leader. So at the refuge, we'll have a project leader or refuge manager, and then I'll fall behind that, and I will be overseeing overall all the programs that are on the refuge. So I'm saying this now because I'm going to probably have to let go of some of the things that I normally been doing, and unfortunately environmental education will probably be one of them. And so I will be definitely looking at Janelle and at the friends group to help me have continue with the successful program that we currently have. So a little bit about me. I have been at Malheur for 20 plus years. I came here as right out of college. I was supposed to be at Malheur for probably about 5 years just to get some training experience, but fortunately I was able to fill in the visitor services position. And since I love this area so much and I love Malheur so much, I decided to stay and not move around to refuge. I'm going to, what people call me is a lifer. So I plan to be here until I retire, and I'll probably end up staying here even after I retire. So it's a beautiful area. I love the refuge, and I just have a lot of experience. And so I'm really thrilled to talk about what I do, or especially under environmental education, because I think it's just, again, very important that we continue doing education part of the refuge. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed. I do want to apologize that there's a lot of slide transitions through here. I just borrowed this template off the website and modified it for what the presentation is. So I tried to get rid of it, but I wasn't able to. So let's begin. So throughout this presentation, there was 4 things I really wanted to focus about. I want to just share a little bit to you about the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, and then to understand a little bit about our community and our educational program. I wanted to talk about the culture and the area. So focus on the youth. Then we're going to dive into our environmental education program. And then, of course, we're going to finish off with talking about our team. So the roles of the staff and the Friends of Malheur Refuge, as well as volunteers and interns and partnerships. So a little bit about the Fish and Wildlife Service. The refuge system has over 580 wildlife refuges in the United States. It's an extremely important service, and I love working for the Fish and Wildlife Service. I think we have a great mission. Our mission is to conserve, manage, and restore fish and wildlife, plants, and their habitats for the benefit of current and future generations of Americans. So it's a huge mission, but it's extremely important. With the population growth and with other issues that we are facing, it's important that we have those wildlife refuges. Also, the refuge system aims to provide quality recreational opportunities. What I'm talking here is what we call the Big Six. So back in 1997, the National Wildlife Refuge System had an Improvement Act. The Improvement Act was aiming to look at what we call, like I mentioned, the Big Six, and make sure we are providing these quality recreational uses. So the Big Six, it would be wildlife viewing, wildlife observation, interpretation, education, fishing, and hunting. So with that said, with my position, I try to oversee all of those, but today we're going to just be focusing more on the educational aspect of it. I'm not sure if you guys heard about the book Last Child in the Woods. It was written back out in 2005. This was kind of, I remember this when it first came out. It was kind of spurred an international movement to connect children, families, and communities to our natural world. Richard was focused or explaining that there's a staggering divide between children and the outdoors, and the disturbing childhood trends that we've been seeing back then. And it was just, attention disorders, depression. And so the book was kind of to me, it was kind of like the start of realizing that the children were, not going outdoors as much. When I was growing up, I think I was outdoors almost every day. And I remember growing up and just leaving in the morning and then coming back for dinner time. Now I see it being a little bit different. I'm seeing more children with, cell phones or video games. And it was amazing that back in '05, and I'm assuming probably there was research and studies prior to then, but it was kind of the kickoff, especially for the US Fish and Wildlife Service. So in 2010, President Obama signed a presidential memorandum establishing something we call the Great Outdoors. This was to promote and support innovative community level efforts to conserve outdoor spaces and to reconnect Americans to the outdoors. So the Fish and Wildlife Service took this and made an initiative and named it Youth in the Great Outdoors. And this was back in 2010, and our goal was to inspire millions of young people to play, learn, serve, and work outdoors. Also in 2010, we initiated something called Let's Go Outside. And this is similar. It's to promote a healthy lifestyle among the American public by connecting people with nature. So with The Last Child in the Woods was kind of like the spur, and then we got 2 initiatives to try to get children connected with the outdoors. With that, we came up with some goals and objectives. We looked at the time outdoors, the programmatic focus, wildlife interactions, and the local focus. So these are the 4 components that we should be applying to our environmental education. So the time outdoors, they found that there are emotional connections to nature when time is spent outside. So when I look at my environmental educational program, I try to address these components. So now it goes to the programmatic focus. So it's successful if there are direct encounters with wildlife. It's linked directly to its program. So when I'm doing my environmental education program, I think of that. So when I'm out there, I try to link it. So for example, I could walk around and find an owl pellet and with the kids, and I could be dissecting it right then and there. Wildlife viewing is another focus that we could do because we're linking it. Wildlife interactions. I think it's very important because, if I think about it, there are so many people that are afraid of snakes, sharks, bees. When I'm working with students and I see those, I try to have a positive, some type of story behind them because they're learning that. And I want to take that away from them. I want them to know that there is a benefit to all of those animals that may have a negative wildlife encounters with them. But there is a benefit to have a few encounters for a connection, and I try to do that when I'm doing my educational program. I'm usually out there with the kids looking for snakes. Just a couple weeks ago, I was with a group of kids. We found a bull snake and it was a great experience. They just got involved and it was just wonderful. And then a local focus. So we have our local culture and ecology. Here in where the refuge is settled, we have a lot of ecology. My goodness, we're in the high desert. We have the floodplains, we have ponds, we have rivers, we have a variety of vegetation. So it's important to capture that when you're doing an educational program. And I'll be talking a little bit later about our local culture, which I try to pull in when I do my educational program. I do want to emphasize that when I am doing my educational program, because a lot of the kids here grew up here and they are living on a ranching community. So they are protecting habitat. And so when I talk about protecting habitat, I emphasize the importance of Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, but I also emphasize the importance of how they're managing their land, which is benefiting multiple species of birds and other wildlife. So Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. This picture here was taken over Buena Vista Overlook. So if you don't know the refuge much, I would definitely suggest visiting this unit. It's a beautiful area. One of my favorite pictures. So Malheur, we have over 187,000 acres. We are located in the southeast corner of Oregon. We are in the high desert, but we have water, which is an oasis in itself. It was established in 1908 as a preserve and breeding ground for native birds. Here's a map of the refuge. I just want you to see, you know, you don't have to read everything because it's probably really small for you, but if you can see Malheur Lake, Mud Lake, and Harney Lake, those was first established in 1908. Then what we call the Blitzen Valley. This is pretty much the from headquarters or Malheur Lake all the way south to French Glen. That was established in 1935. And then we have the Double O unit, which is west of Harney Lake, and that was established in 1941. So primarily we were established for breeding ground for migratory birds and other wildlife. And we are definitely an important piece of the Pacific Flyway. Okay, so that was a little bit about the refuge, and I just wanted to let you guys know that in 2013, we did something called a Comprehensive Conservation Plan, which is abbreviated as CCP. This plan was a huge effort with the staff working at the refuge at the time. We looked at all the programs and we were looking at describing priorities and making decisions on how we're going to manage the refuge for the next 15 years. The big six that I mentioned earlier, like wildlife observation, photography, hunting and fishing, was all addressed in this CCP plan. I'm going to focus on what we discussed about our educational program. So you can see the bullets. Everything's pretty much explanatory, but I do want to emphasize a little bit about our key interpretive themes. And so when we're doing our educational program, we are going to focus on some of these keys. Unfortunately, I don't have all the skill set or time to address everything. And so we kind of had to, I would say, downsize on what we focus on. But our key interpretive themes that we do try to reach out to in our educational program would be our significance of the refuge to breeding and migratory birds, pre-contact and post-contact history, and then our Civilian Conservation Corps, which is a CCC. We had 5 camps on the refuge, which was very spectacular. If you've been to the refuge before, you would notice the rock buildings that we have at headquarters that was built by the CCC, and the lookout towers and observation blinds and all that. Wilderness, geology, aquatic health, water's importance across the landscape, of course, wildlife and habitat, roles and importance of the National Wildlife Refuge System, including Malheur. And then, most importantly, inspire them to become stewards of the land. Because the mission of the Fish and Wildlife Service, like I mentioned earlier, was we're looking at this youth to be our stewards for the next generation. Okay, now that we got a little bit of an idea about, Malheur National Wildlife Refuge and our U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service initiatives for education, we're going to be taking all that, and now we want to look at our youth. So, and I want to share to you what I have enjoyment to work with. So we have two school districts. We have district number 3 and district number 1, and then we have the rural schools. School district number 3 is serving the city of Burns and Hines. School district number 1 is our boarding school. I believe it's our only boarding school in Oregon. It might be the only boarding school ever, high school in the United States. Don't quote me on that because I am not sure. And then we have our rural schools. So we're reaching, well, let me rephrase that. So the district number 3, we have probably about 700 to 800 students, and that is serving elementary, middle school, high school, and we also have a charter school. District number 1, it's K through 12, and there's about 200 students being served there. Our rural schools, we have 7 altogether, and we could have anywhere between 2 to 10 students per school. Now, Harney County is the largest county in Oregon. If you look at this map, you can see the star. That is Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. The dots in orange is district number 3 and 1. So we have Burns and Hines, and we have our Crane School. For Burns and Hines, if we want to reach them or if they come to us, it's going to be pretty much about 35 miles. If we go to Crane or they come to us, that's a 60-mile trip. Unfortunately, because they're usually on a bus, they need to take the paved road. So they have to go up to Burns, to Hines, and drop down to Malheur. Our closest school system is O, which is going to be west of Malheur. And then we have, of course, Riley. And the ones, I guess I should explain this, the blue dots you see are our rural schools. And pretty much they're spread out, but that helps them overcome the challenges of the income distance. And these are more your ranching community kids. And so if you look at this map, if you look further south, that is Fields, and that is 100 miles away. So for us to reach Fields, we are traveling 100 miles, and we have done it, which is spectacular because our drive will look like this. I absolutely love it. I love where I live. We have wide open spaces, but it can be challenging. It can be challenging for the refuge to reach out to these students and for the students to reach out to us. But they also get this. This is a picture taken in our Sylvies River floodplain that's closer to Burns and Hines. We have, it's, I mentioned earlier, we're on the Pacific Flyway, so it's just not Malheur Refuge that's important, but it's also the surrounding land. And so it's important that I know where I grew up, there's probably a lot of places that I haven't seen because I actually lived there. When talking with students here or even coworkers, there's majority of them never been to the refuge, or they never been to Steens Mountain, which is supporting the water for the refuge. So one of my goals when I do my educational program is to get them to look and see what's surrounding them, because they may not know the importance they have in their own backyard, as myself and people that come here are in awe when they see something like this. So I mentioned I was going to talk about a little about our local culture and to understand how we could use education to reach out to our local youth. We kind of need to understand a little bit about them. So we do live in a ranching community. There's probably about 500 ranches and farms that are producing cattle, dairy products, and they have haying operations. It's really funny to say that cattle outnumber people 14 to 1 here. And sports is a huge popularity here in Harney County, and also recreational activities. So a lot of, maybe not a lot, but some youth, they know hunting, they go fishing, they go out and camp. So that's very important that some of these kids are getting exposed to uh, some type of nature, and it was just great. And then we also have our community. I don't know what the percentage is, but I would probably say majority of this percentage is students are being raised by state and federal families. So that could be the Refuge, BLM, ODF&W, Forest Service. We have a hospital here. We have a big, large law enforcement program. We have our Eastern Oregon Agricultural Research Center. We have other things that I probably out there, and probably, I'm not going to miss. So understand the local culture will help us with our educational program. So now jumping to our educational program, I absolutely love this quote. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. So when I do my educational program and when I ask for help to help me with my educational program, I try to encourage everyone to get them involved. I think it's something that is the utmost important in our educational program. So what do we do? I broke this up into 3 groups, and it's pretty much realistic. So we do have something called the Artist in Residence program. So we're actually reaching into the classroom. We have field trips that come to the Refuge, and these are annual field trips. And we have local events which help others to engage the community. So let me start off with the Artist in Residence program. This is me back in, I can't remember, 2006, 2007. I started the Artist in Residence program back in, like I mentioned, 2007 or 8, one of those years back then. It was one of those opportunities that I happened to be sitting at a table at a Harney County Migratory Bird Festival. The Bird Festival had an art contest, and the 2 that led the art contest pretty much retired from the program. So when I was sitting there, I had this wonderful idea. And the idea was, I'm going to take this program, I'm going to reach into the classroom with an artist, and we're going to connect these children with nature using art and science. So the goal was to bring in an artist. The artist will have or teach a different art medium on different years. And then I would go around to the students and connect them to the bird that they were going to draw. There were some challenges to this program. For one, it was not easy to find an artist to help me. So in this picture, I was the artist as well as the habitat specialist. And as you can see, at this point, we were choosing one bird. And this was my beautiful shoveler, but it was a start. Now we have expanded. We've been doing this program for multiple years. I remember reaching out to the friends group, Janelle, and I said, I need help. I need someone to help me find an artist because it's challenging. And so the friends of Malheur jumped on board. They get funds and they help hire an artist for us to reach into the classrooms. So from the picture you saw before with the shoveler, now look where we're at. It is amazing. We used multiple different types of art mediums. We used chalk, we used pastels, we have used watercolor, we have used crowns, we have used multiple other things, because every year when a new artist comes, we tell them what we've done already, and then they're able to choose what they would like to use to help us reach into the classrooms. So this is some pictures throughout the years that we have done. A little bit about the program. We do it during, well, not during, but we do it prior to the Migratory Bird Festival that we hold annually. It's a perfect time, end of March, beginning of April, because when I'm in the classroom with the artists reaching out to these students, migration has started. So I'm able to try to get them to start looking outside and seeing what bird they have chose to draw. What we normally do is we bring in pieces of like ID cards. The students are able to choose what bird they want to draw. They get that bird drawn on paper. The artist teaches them how to do the art medium. And then I have the funnest job of all. I walk around and I connect them to that bird. And it is, I believe, one of an exceptional program, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm going to be really looking at the Friends of Malheur to help us keep this program. Field trips. We have annual field trips every year. It typically happens in the month of May. We are fortunate to get the first and third graders coming out to the refuge from Slater Elementary. Slater Elementary is from the city of Burns. We also get kindergarten and first grade from Crane Elementary. Of course, they're from Crane. And we occasionally get higher elementary grades too from Crane. But on average, that's what we do. This is a lot of wording, but what I want to emphasize here is that we have established goals and objectives. We take what we learned from our initiatives and what we developed in our CCP, but I also want to inform everyone that we also try to align it with the Oregon Department of Education and Oregon Science Standards. So our typical day on a field trip, it's really fun. It's one of my favorite things I do in my job is education. And because it's fun. The kids are there to learn. The kids are there to have fun, and I'm there to help them have fun and help to learn. So typically they will arrive. I will do a welcoming and an introduction. And during that introduction, I usually explain to them what my favorite bird is so they could get connected to me. And I do the same with the folks that are helping me. I have them tell them or share to them, to the group, what their favorite bird is. And then I can use that throughout the day, especially when we go to the museum, and there's a photo I'm going to show you a little bit further on. After our welcome, we usually have 3 activities. Activities are typically about 30 minutes in length. They rotate through the 3 activities, and then it's at the end of the day, we do a follow-up, and this is where I kind of ask them the questions, and I ask them how they could be stewards and what they have learned. And it's a great way to end it. But what's really spectacular, what's really fun, especially for me, is during the lunchtime. After they have their lunch, they have probably about 30 minutes to walk around, and that's when I'm out there exploring with them. And we're finding feathers, we're finding sea pods, we're finding owl pellets, we're finding bones. I mean, they even leaves, and it's a way to encourage exploration. And I think it works really well. I mentioned our museum. If you have not been at Malheur headquarters, we do have a museum called George Benson museum, which was dedicated to him in 1953. George Benson was a refuge protector. Inside this museum, we have over 200 bird specimens. This museum is a key component to I'm going to say my educational program, but it's not, to the Refuge educational program. It's a, with over 200 species of specimens in there, they could go in there, they can learn bird characteristics, they can learn a lot with this museum. Currently, I got some good news that this museum, the Fish and Wildlife Service Visitor Services, is going to help me write a site plan. What we want to do with the museum is find ways to preserve these specimens, because these specimens were, majority of them was taxidermy with George Benson back, before 1953. And he did them with working with local children and adults. So there's a story behind that. So we want to preserve these specimens. We also need to enhance interpretation and education. So with the site plans, I know Janelle is going to be involved in it, making a feasible, workable plan that's achievable. I am hoping that the Friends group could help me plan it, working with the visitor services, but also help fund what needs to be done, because that's one of the things that gets hold up at Malheur, is we could write all these plans we want, but we have no way to fund them. So that's why I'm involving Janelle quickly on this and trying to make this museum something that could just enhance our educational program as well as interpretation. So we also do local events. There's probably way more local events than I'm going to be mentioning here, but I know we do, the Bird Festival. We have events at the library, the Harney County Fair. We help other partners like the High Desert Partnership, Eastern Oregon Agricultural Research Center. I personally go up to John Day to help at an outdoor school. And I know the Friends have done multiple events on the refuge to connect children with nature. So it's just remarkable what we do. And just like how we do our other programs, our goal is to connect children with nature. That is using, doing microinvertebrates, binoculars, even get them to listen to sounds of birds. So connection. That's all I could say. Try to get them connected. And you're probably wondering how many people or how many students we reach annually. This is those 3 programs I was talking about. So our artist in residence program, we reach up to over 600 students. We go to every school, every class that's in Harney County. So we're traveling to Burns, we're traveling to Crane, and we're traveling to those 7 rural schools that I mentioned. So yeah, we're traveling 100 miles just to reach maybe 10 students. But if one of those students make a connection and they become stewards, then we are doing something right. But I know we're connecting more than just one. So which is very spectacular. So our field trips, I'm thinking we're doing more than 200. This is the number that I know of because I coordinate those events, but I know we have staff as well as, like I mentioned, Janelle with the Friends group. She does hers too, so this number is probably higher. And then our local events, we're probably reaching over 400 students just doing that. So our team, I can't do it if I didn't have a team. So refuge staff, we do have full-time specialists at Malheur. We have a biological program, which fortunately we have a wildlife a wildlife biologist, we have a fisheries biologist, and we have a habitat ecologist biologist. We also have a maintenance program, a law enforcement, and upper management. So when we do educational activities, I try to pull in our specialists to help me. That could be a challenge, just trying to get a day from them is really hard. I do want to give 5 stars plus to the Friends of Malheur Refuge. Janelle has been extremely helpful, helping me and helping me find volunteers and partners to help me accomplish what we do. So the importance of teamwork. I can't speak more on this because I couldn't be able to do it alone. And I am the only one there currently doing the educational program. And I'm sad because I'm going to be letting some stuff go because of my new position that's coming up. And then we are needing to look more at teamwork to help us fulfill our goals and objectives for environmental education. I just want to say that we are reaching out more than 1,000 youth a year, and it's amazing what we do. It's amazing that we could do it with the teamwork that we have. So how do we do it? This is coordination is huge, especially with the artist in residence program. It takes a lot of time to coordinate all the schools that we have, the classes, and trying to fit in, when the artists come in and trying to, when I reach out to rural schools, I try to clump like Diamond, French Glen, and Fields because they're all in the southern area of Harney County. Then I try to do the same in the northern and the western. So coordination is huge. It's actually became really simple because now the schools, like the first graders and third, like our annual field trips, they actually reach out to me, which is spectacular. I don't want to lose that because it's working. Now, team commitment, that's what I mentioned earlier. It's if without a commitment from a team, then we couldn't be able to do this. And I really appreciate the team that I have and all the help they have done for me already. And then the activities planning. This is the fun part. So that curriculum or that page with all the text I showed you earlier, I do that per grade, and each is different. Our goals and our objectives are different because I don't want to teach some first graders, and when they come back in third grade, it needs to be advanced information and it needs to be different because they already learned it in first grade. So activities planning is one of my favorite things because I create something new maybe every year, but I also use things that have worked, and it's mostly show and tell or games to connect them to what we're trying to teach them. And then of course our hands-on activities. That's the day they came up and they come out here and to the refuge, or we go to them. And we just have extremely fun time. I love the kids. I love the fact that I could be in a grocery store and I'll have kids waving at me or running up to me and telling me what my favorite bird is, or they heard a chickadee. And that's what makes it important on what we do. So I threw this slide in here because we could always do more, but we need a full-time employee if we want to do more, or increase support if we want to do more. When I mean increase support, finding someone to help us, get volunteers or interns, or even help us find an employee or volunteer as that employee, because there are some things I think we could do. One of them is provide programs for higher education. What I'm meaning is we do not reach out much to middle school or high schoolers or even college level. That's something that will take time for someone to coordinate those type of programs. Provide outdoor learning areas. This is something that sounds simple because we have a lot of outdoor learning areas on the refuge, but it's that coordination again. We need to let the schools know that they could come out to the refuge and do self-led type of educational programs. That would be where we're not involved. We're just providing the outdoor learning areas. If we have staff or volunteers or interns that are able to attend those events that they have on the refuge, then by all means, we will do that. Then my other thought was reaching out to non-traditional audiences. This could be reaching out to informal educators like scouting groups or lower income families or even non-locals. So we could always expand more in our educational program. But as I mentioned, we need more support or an employee to make those type of activities happen. So I'm just grateful with the teamwork I have, and with the schools teachers that I know to have what we have now. So I'm very grateful for that. So I'm close to being done with my presentation. I just want to highlight that for me, connecting youth to nature is so important. And for me, I love connecting students to coming up with ways to connect students to nature. Every student's different, but what I found what's really fun, I try to tell them my stories. I try to tell them what my favorite bird is. I even bring out my iPad and I have them hear a particular bird. I like the chickadee, which sounds like cheeseburger. And they love it. They're going to remember it. And when they hear it, they're going to be connected. So that's just incredibly important. I just want to emphasize that I do try to educate the responsibility of protecting habitat when I do these educational programs, because that's vitally important. That's how they're going to become stewards down the road. And of course, and not least, the importance of wildlife refuges. Like I mentioned, we have over 580 wildlife refuges. We're all protecting habitat. Not every refuge is a bird refuge. We have wildlife refuges that are protecting, pronghorn, bison, alligators, monarch butterflies. And so when I share that with the students, because maybe some of them are not interested in birds, maybe they're interested in butterflies. So I try to share that you can work for us, or if you don't want to work for the Fish and Wildlife Service, you can do something in your own backyard. So that is my presentation. I think when I talked with Janelle, she said if there was any questions, we will have an opportunity for me to answer them, or if there's anything like clarity, because I went through a lot of information going through this presentation. So Janelle, it's all yours.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Carey, so much for the time, not only that you shared with us this afternoon, but the time that you put into that program. It's really thorough and so wonderful. Thank you so much. We did have a question in the chat, and if anyone else wants to pop a question in there, please feel free. So the question we have is, are there any education programs specifically for adults and in addition to children?
Unfortunately, we don't have any programs for adults. I actually rely a lot on my volunteers. When we have visitors come and they're adults, I encourage them to go out there and educate them as much as possible about the Fish and Wildlife Service, about the refuge, about birds that they might be seeing on the refuge. So that one slide when I talk about how we can do more, that could be something we could do more on, which with our capacity that we have now, we just can't do it.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think, you know, working with our friends volunteers in the nature center and store as well, it's really important for me to have our volunteers understand that that connection point with every adult and child that walks through the door, and talking about, you know, what it is that they're seeing on the refuge and what the purpose of the refuge is, and really pulling out for them what their interests are and trying to build on those connection points, and educate from where each individual is really a valuable opportunity to kind of take when we have a captive audience of a visitor that walks through the door. So those are kind of more one-on-one opportunities. This speaker series has kind of been our organization's first pitch at trying to do more educating our adult population. And so that's an opportunity, is to continue looking for these programs in our newsletter and on our website, and connecting in that way and educating yourself about the refuge there. And also volunteer opportunities themselves. So when you come and volunteer in the visitor center, or you come and volunteer for an education program, or volunteer in the nature store, or for a weekend stewardship work party, if you come out in August for the Sod House Ranch spruce up, is what we typically call it, is, you know, getting Sod House Ranch open for its public season is an educational opportunity in and of itself, because you learn about what it takes to maintain these places, you learn about its culture and its history, and you learn about, if you're, you know, helping with pulling debris out of the long barn at P Ranch, you're really talking to people like Alice Elshoff, who used to live in that region and continues to volunteer and work in that space. And you learn so much from those opportunities just by being in community with others. So while there are not currently formal education programs, or we have developed curricula, there are opportunities.
Well said, Janelle. Well said.
Thanks, Carey. So Jim Superior has asked, what is the best way to handle negativity towards federal employees? Jim references here that he is retired Forest Service, and adds on to his question, and any negativity towards birders during the bird festival. So it's sort of a two-part question.
Yeah. I know for me, I typically laugh it off, I guess, because for me, there's few in between those, but education is important to try to reach out to those that are maybe disgruntled about birders coming here, especially like during the bird festival. But we also, so educational is an important component of that. So when someone comes in and they're negative, we always try to tell them the importance of, you know, why they're here, and they're here for birds, and you know, they have that connection, and they're going to help us keep that stewardship moving on. So, you know, I was focused more on educational with curricula and lower curriculum, but education is always going on outside of just group activities. So I don't know if I answered you, because it is a challenging question, but I do tell my volunteers, if they come up with someone that is bitter, maybe with the fish, like with federal employees, then, you know, I tell them the benefit of what we do. But then if I have others that are bitter because of the birders, then I tell them the importance of them being here. And so that's probably the best way to do it. keep it positive.
I think that's a great answer, Carey. Wonderful. Anyone else? We have a great little group here. So I'd love to entertain anyone else's questions with the last few minutes that we have. You know, I can't overstate the importance of what Carey pointed out with regards to our team and how important it is to lean on one another to be able to accomplish these programs. So if you have any interest in volunteering, if you're an artist and are, you know, interested in supporting the Artist in Residence program, if you are a retired teacher and you want to come out during field trip season, you know, we are always welcoming folks like you to come and volunteer for those programs. So it's I can't overstate the importance of how our team pulls these things off and how we do it together. So,
Yep.
Any residual damage from the Bundy occupation? So, Carey, I have kind of a standard response to this question, but if you want to feel free to respond to Margaret's question about the residual damage from the Bundy occupation.
Oh, you go ahead, Janelle.
So, from the Friends of Malheur's perspective, as a nonprofit organization that depends on membership and contributions to support the work that we do that supports the refuge, I always point out that when you arrive at Refuge headquarters and folks ask, is this where it happened? Or is this where, you know, that the occupation took place? I point out that they have to ask because you can't look around and tell or notice the long-lasting impact at the site of Refuge headquarters, and the fact that our organization as a nonprofit is so strong today with our members and our financial capacity to be able to support the refuge in purchasing equipment and funding a seasonal technician. Like, these are the long-lasting outcomes of that event, and they're nothing but positive. Okay. Okay, Jim, we'll email you. Wonderful. Anyone else? You know, it's 5 o'clock, so it's time to wrap up unless anyone has anything pressing that they want to share or ask. I'm just so grateful for Carey, not only the time that you put into this, but the service that you know, provide on behalf of the refuge to our community and the wildlife refuge itself. Your career is something to marvel at. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. With that, have a wonderful evening. And you can always reach out to Carey. Her information is here, or you can reach out to me through the Friends. Our website's malheurfriend.org. My email is friends@malheurfriends.org. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, and we love to be connected with you. Thank you and have a great night.